Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the farm. As is tradition around here, Mother Nature didn't quite deal us the cards that we were wanting, which was sunshine and no rain first thing in the morning. Instead, we got a couple tenths of an inch of rain, or 5 to 6 millimeters for you metric folk, and a very hazy, sunless morning. That is not good for our prospects of cutting soybeans, although if we do give it some time and have some divine interaction, it is still possible today. We're gonna go see what kind of trouble we can get ourselves into today. It may be a slow start this morning, but I'm optimistic that it's going to pick up as the day goes on. Before we do, everyone make sure you like the video and leave a comment down below. It is one of the cheapest and easiest ways that you can support the channel. Every time you interact with the video, it helps me out a ton, and I greatly appreciate you all supporting me and watching the videos. Let's get to work. When there's moisture literally dripping off of the soybean pods, that's not what you're looking for, and it may be a while before we could ever consider cutting any beans. Now, the field we're eyeing down is to the north about 5 miles. I believe they got about the same amount of rainfall. This is just kind of a visual indicator back home of what we're dealing with. These Pioneer 3.9 soybeans right here are very close to cutting themselves. I'm amazed though at how many green stems are on this field. There are next to no green pods on here, so they may be a challenge for the combine to thresh and process. Green stems are notoriously tough to run through, but the beans may test moisture-wise whenever it dries up, which is probably not going to be today for these ones. We've been so wrapped up with the start of harvest season and all the headaches and hassles that go along with it that I forgot we have this beast tucked in the barn waiting to be used. It's still only got a couple hours on it, and I think it's going to be fun to run. It hasn't been decided yet how deep we're going to run these shanks. I would think you'd want to run a minimum of 10 inches. I don't know if it's going to be difficult the first time we run it through the field because we've never really broken up that deep layer of compaction. I do believe with 620 horses up there and a whole lot of traction that we can get away with running it relatively deeper in the ground. I'm curious though, those of you who run something like this, maybe not this brand or this make, but a subsoiler in general, how deep do you run it on your soils? If you have any tips for a first-time user of one of these, drop them in the comment below. I'd appreciate all your insights. It appears to me that these hydraulic stops right here are how you set the depth, probably on the main lift cylinders on both sides. Most of our other equipment usually has a turn knob that sets a stop. Probably simpler just to use these. This seems unnecessarily loose right here. Should probably tie it up or zip tie it or bungee cord it or something. The sun will come out tomorrow. Tomorrow is only a day away. Now there's our friend. Finally burnt through that fog. The only place the sun is shining right now is on our farm. If that's not a sign, I don't know what is. A little update on the 9200 International that had quite the leak yesterday. My dad ran down to Rush Truck Centers after we were done working for the day, picked up a replacement reservoir. That truck's in town right now with our local mechanic getting a new reservoir on, and it should be good to go. That is always one of the nicest parts about planning to cut soybeans. You have a little bit more free time in the mornings to get a few things done. We could probably pick some corn if we had anything dry enough to pass the time, but I don't think we do, so we're not even going to try to do that. If we're putting it in our own bins, anything over 17% is probably a no-go. We don't have any heated drying on a majority of our storage. We have some fans, but they're not necessarily the most efficient at drying a lot of bushels and a lot of points of moisture down. Take advantage of this opportunity to do some combine servicing. A little grease goes a long way. It's only 9 o'clock and this truck's already back in action with a new coolant reservoir. Back on the road. Unfortunately though, they couldn't fix the transmission. Not that they really tried, but they did check out the diagnostic log and there's no error codes or anything for why it does this. Cripple truck. The best part about a brand new combine, bumper to bumper warranty for the first year. The worst part about a brand new combine, a lot of problems that you really cannot predict. While we wait on the beans to dry, we're going to take an ear sample of corn, see where some of this around home is at. We might be able to shell some. I'm really looking forward to cutting these 38XF1 Extend Flex beans. They look pretty good. Still a tiny bit of green in the leaves, but virtually none. I can't get over how much tar spot we have this year. We know next to nothing about the disease, and our treatment options are limited. Fungicide does help reduce its impact, or at least that's what they claim. There's no denying that a healthier plant can withstand other diseases better. Although I don't know if Syngenta's Triva Pro or BASF's Veltima actually offer any straightforward protection of it. I'll let Dad get a majority of the year. I'll grab one. The field itself is probably too wet to pick anyways. Soft. That last field of corn was 112-day Pioneer planted the 6th of April. It was still 20.5% moisture, which is way too wet, and that's at the tester, so more likely 21 or 22 once the combine gets through. We're checking out some 113-day DeKalb corn. This field is extremely muddy, so even if it was dry enough, probably wouldn't be able to harvest it. Still gonna take a few ear samples and see where it is. This farm right here was our first one to shoot tassels, so if anything's close, I would think it's this. Dad's the only one venturing out into the fields now because we don't want us both to have muddy shoes. This farm right here, which you've already picked a couple throughs off of, is 110-day Pioneer and 111-day DeKalb. I believe it was at about 20% over a week ago. We've got some rain since then, so it may still be in the same range. While we wait on the crops to dry, we're gonna unhook this mower. Might as well do something productive.
Take it outside and kind of knock off the dirt quick.
I call this mower and tractor Dad's hobby mower because he keeps it down here at one of our barns off from the farm and just on the weekends comes out and mows with it. Completely unnecessary to have a lot of mowers like we do because they're the least profitable thing on the farm. They're a lot more reliable than a semi though, so I can't complain about that. That's good. At TGMDO, gonna take some more samples. We're taking a look at the 3-1 beans that we sampled last week. They were around 16%. We've had some rain on them since then. The sun stayed out and it got a little bit windier. They might cut today. Use my moisture meter. Oh, they're pretty dry, Dad. Bring a combine up after dinner and check it?
Yeah.
Huh. Dad and I were trying to find the greaser for the rethresher here, which we ended up locating, and noticed on this top hydraulic line that there was actually a little bit of a nick. We cleaned off all the built up dirt and grime so you can't really see the location. We're gonna have to have the John Deere tech come out here and look at it because it's a long line. It's a new combine. You really don't want to have a small hole like that because it can very quickly turn into a big hole and dump out a lot of hydraulic oil. Looks like a raccoon has explored our combine already. I wonder if he's still in here somewhere. Hope you're not in the separator, buddy. I don't know that I would call a raccoon buddy if it was in your combine. I've heard some very interesting stories about cases where a raccoon got in a combine, like the fan, for instance. The owner started the combine, killed the raccoon, and did quite a bit of dollars worth of damage. So it helps to not have vagrants in your equipment. Alliance Tractor sent out a mechanic for the warranty work extremely fast. He was here within 30 minutes, pulled the line off, took it in and realized that they do not have the replacement fittings that are specific for that line, and they also don't stock that exact unit of line. So they don't have the identical line in stock, which is not normally a big deal because they have bulk line, they can cut it and make a new one. They don't have the in fittings though, and they won't splice the line. I'm not an expert by any means. I think you could just put 2 ends on a line and put them together and have a brand new line, but they're not gonna do that. So they put the line back on the machine, we're gonna run it. Hopefully the hole doesn't get any bigger. Can't really afford to have this machine down for a couple days while we wait on a new hydraulic end to replace that whole line. It won't hurt to go ahead and switch this combine over, switch over the feed accelerator, mess with the choppers, and unhook the corn head. So we're gonna get this all ready to go. First things first, putting down these jack stands. Buddy, where do you think you're going? There's no escaping your fate. What a difference a few hours of sunshine and a breeze can make. These beans had water on them earlier. Now they're popping open with no problem, and the beans are pretty firm. I think that these beans will actually cut next week. The results are in for the ear test we pulled earlier on those 2 different hybrids. The 113-day DeKalb was 18.5% moisture, so way too wet. The combination of 110-day Pioneer and 111-day DeKalb was 16.5% moisture. If we were going to make a mess by going out there and harvesting that field based on the conditions, we would definitely strongly consider picking that corn today. I don't know if it's worth it though. The moisture is right on the top end of where we'd really want it to put it in our grain bins, and our combines and grain cart are going to be packed full of mud based on the way that farm looks. That is the good news. The bad news is that the test weight on that specific farm was 54 pounds. 54 pounds per bushel. That is horrendous. Shrunk down to dry bushels, that's not even 55 pounds per bushel. That is much worse than I'm used to here and lower than I was expecting. I know some of you may say, well, 55 pounds dry corn test weight, that's not that bad. Some areas of the world, definitely. If you're farming in the Dakotas, 55 pounds may be great. We're farming here in central Illinois. This is God's country. Most of our corn is usually over 60 pounds, but next to none of it is this year. I don't know if it's a disease thing or a water thing. Could be a variety of different factors. Either way, that's not a great sign for the quality of our crop. Speaking of disappointing news, I really regret to inform you guys that we did verify the scale weights on that farm that averaged 270 according to the combine. I hate to stick my foot in my mouth, but I do my best here to be very honest and open with you. It would be disingenuous not to make this correction, but over the scales, that farm made 250. The combine was showing 270. I had a lot of faith in that John Deere active yield system. It was within 1% on our first field of corn, right around 250 there, and it was accurate. The next field we harvested, though, was almost 10% off. I can take 1% error any day of the week. That's an acceptable amount of error. 10%, though, what is the point of even having that system on the combine if it's that inaccurate? I really think that if you're looking for an accurate yield system, you really need to check out Precision Planning's Yield Sense. It's expensive to install. However, the active yield system on the 7 Series combines isn't a cheap option either, and most dealerships order it standard. I don't have any room to complain about 250 bushel corn. That is still really good. It's just that when you have the taste of 270 bushel corn, it's like having the golden apple, and then someone says, well, actually, that's just a regular apple. 20 bushel difference, that amounts to $100 an acre gross difference in terms of revenue. A little bit heartbreaking, but we can still be satisfied with the crop. Sorry for bragging about something that wasn't actually there. The sun is shining, temperature's rising, and the wind is blowing. That's a very good sign for our prospects of cutting soybeans today. It's just a matter of time before they reach a moisture where we can harvest them. And like I said, best way to get your beans to dry is to go eat lunch. We're headed to Alliance Tractor to pick up our 30-foot draper that we had a new belt put on. And Dad is working on cutting a sample right now. Fortunately for us, we can be nosy and watch him on the John Deere Operations Center to see what moisture we run at. Looks like he's fired up the separator. Combine's running. See what we got. Sped up the rotor a little bit, I would imagine, because he's afraid the beans are going to be tough. Sometimes when they're more challenging, you need a little bit more oomph on the rotor. Right now they're running 13.7% instant, 100 bushel an acre. Knowing what we know about that last field, I don't even know how much merit I want to put into that yield. 13.5, 100, 13.6. Oh, we're cutting beans today, folks. Love it.
Hello?
Hey, I'm still sitting here at Alliance Tractor with the draper. Looks like I should bring it to the field.
Well, from what I can tell, I'm going to run a sample to the elevator.
Okay, you're gonna double check it?
Yeah, but go ahead and bring it to the field. Won't cut today, it'll cut tomorrow.
All right, sounds good. I may have fudged a little bit when I said that I was at the draper. What I should have said is I was a couple minutes away from the draper. Doesn't really benefit me, to be honest, in that case, though, and it doesn't do any harm. We're gonna hook up with this and take her to the field, assuming it's ours. Putting a lot of faith in my judgment here. Good news, everyone. The beans did verify to be 14% moisture, which gives us more than enough justification to come out here and cut soybeans with both combines. Katie should be on the way up with the S680, although there are times when she's a little bit slow. Hopefully she's here within the next 10 or 20 minutes. We can hit the ground running. I can go get the grain cart. It's still at one of our previous fields that we finished on corn. We knew that we would probably be cutting these beans today, so we didn't move the grain cart home. The field we came from yesterday was a lot closer than our home farm. I'm gonna have to go get that in a second when I get a ride, but we're gonna sit here and talk about these beans and why I'm extremely excited to be harvesting them. First and foremost, these are a Pioneer 31T64E Enlist soybean. We have planted Pioneer soybeans for a very long time. We have not planted any of their Enlist beans. We've had a lot of luck with Don Mario's Enlist platform. They have a great bean and show that the genetic potential is there. I'm not 100% sold on the other brands, Pioneer included. That being said, they're extremely confident with their product. I want to see if the proof is in the pudding. That is, if these beans right here can compete with Extend and Extend Flex beans. The yield data on this farm should give us a very good idea of what we're going to do next year. Last year, we didn't have the best results or validity to our data because we weren't able to stretch that yield potential with the really dry August and September. That's not a great way to finish a bean crop, and you're not going to have tremendous yields. This is a great farm. It has a roll to it. I'm expecting some good beans. The ultimate question is, though, what are good beans for the Enlist platform? Are these going to be 70 average, 80 average, 90 average? We'll have to wait and see. I'm not going to trust that darn yield monitor though, because it's a little bit misleading. On top of just a simple variety test out here, we also dove in to see some seed treatments. I split the planter on about 75 to 80% of this field. Half was our standard full spectrum seed treatment offered from our Pioneer dealer. The other half was that same treatment with Allevo added. For those of you who are new to agriculture or new to my channel, Allevo is a seed treatment that is supposed to give your plants added protection against SDS or sudden death syndrome. It also has an added nematicide. Nematicides are essentially like an insecticide, but specifically made for killing nematodes. Those two together should have been very good this year in terms of yield return. The question is, did we have enough pressure to justify that more luxurious treatment? I believe to break even, we're gonna need to see a 1 bushel an acre return on the Allevo treatment. We'll see when the yield data comes in. That being said, there's also a third trial out here, and we're trying one of Corteva's microbial products. It is something that is supposed to increase nitrogen fixation. Essentially, this product is a dried bazillion amount of bacteria out there that are specifically designed or shown to grow on the plant leaves and fixate more nitrogen from the atmosphere. We applied this with a herbicide in one spot and with our fungicide in another. Very interested to see how that turns out. Microbial products are really growing in prevalence. There's a lot of brands that offer similar stuff and claim very high yield returns. I'd also like to see this in corn, but we don't have that in the cards this year. I'd say we have about a 10-mile-an-hour wind out of the west. Not good if you're trying to film next to the combine, but it is good if you're trying to dry some beans. We better get on this or these are going to be 11% before we know it. I'm probably not in the best spot to be standing, and I don't really enjoy bean dust. I've created a makeshift mask. This is also what I do when I forget my mask and I go inside somewhere. I just pull my shirt over my head. I can see about 2% of what's going on. I see the camera, I see my hand. Really, that's all you need to know, right? As long as the combine's not about to run me over. Doesn't sound like it's very close. Normally, we would only hook up the drapers across the entrance to start the field. I'm afraid with how wet it is out here that maybe it's gonna be a little too slippery for my truck. So I'm gonna have Katie pass me on the outside, hop the ditch, zip around, pick up the draper, and then maybe once I'm empty, I can take it out in the field without worry. Don't wanna make an unnecessary mess. We've already made enough of them without even trying. Uh-oh. Plug the feeder house. Made it through. Those beans are dark. Katie is still nowhere to be seen, so I'm gonna unhook this trailer here on the entrance. It's still kind of on this rock road that has next to no traffic, and Chris is gonna take me to the grain cart. That is if I don't have an allergy attack first. No denying that the beans at least look dry coming out the back. Very dry. I go and get us new hitch pins and somehow they both disappear from my truck and I'm still stuck with the junk one. Funny how that works. Back to a full-time grain cart driver.
What'd you say? Threshing clearance? I'm on 9.
It's always a promising sign for your tractor starting when you can hear the radio. Sounds like they're trying to sort out harvesting settings.
Come over here and run this combine and then I'll try to set that one better.
Gotta love those Midland radios, best in the business. Check out the link below if you're interested in one. Had to unplug the grain cart. I figured I might as well do it before I leave the field. It's best to cover it up if you're gonna leave it out there. Putting the auger into the row position for the first time this year. Usually I just travel with it up. That's where it'd normally be. There's the row position. Spout in. Let her warm up a little bit more. She's kind of chilly. And it'll hit the road. Someone used the emergency shovel and didn't put it back right. It wasn't me because I haven't made any messes. There we go. That's not going anywhere. 15 minutes later and we have arrived at the field. Let's cut some beans. Smoke screen. Dad was in the S670 changing a few settings for Katie and now he's getting back in the 780. That's just the boss's combine. The puppet master gets to run the 7 series. And I'm just a measly old grain car driver. And this is why I had to blow out my radiator at the beginning of the season. Dusty day of cutting beans. Just found out the best part about this operations center and the iPad connectivity through the website, and I can diagnose tech problems from here. Not even have to get in the combine. Of course, this is auto steer related. Seems to be most of the time. Soybeans are so much nicer to harvest than corn, simply for the fact that they're not as logistically demanding. You're taking off maybe a third of the volume of crop per acre that you are with corn. Not to mention, it is helpful today that our local elevator coal station, which is just to the north of us, a mile over those trees, has finally caught back up.
Remember how weedy this was 2 years ago, Andy?
Yeah, we had a ton. Remember through that wash, there was just a shit ton of water in it. That just interrupted my commentary to highlight one of the benefits of the Enlist system, and that is the flexibility of the weed control program. Dicamba and 2,4-D are similar but different herbicides. The restrictions on dicamba are what present the greatest challenge with the Extend platform. However, the Enlist platform does not have those limitations, so you can push that application farther back into the season. If you can hold out 2 or 3 weeks longer to apply your trump card per se on your field, you're going to have better long-term weed control. The 780 is parked and the back door is open. That is never a good sign. We'll have to go check it out after we load this truck. What's wrong? That thing don't have any hydraulic pressure. Well, hopefully that pump didn't go out.
You don't see any oil leaks, do you?
No, but if it all leaked out, then...
Well, where'd it go?
That's a great question.
And there's no sign of hydraulic leaks.
You're right, under half. Is your hydrostat not moving at all?
Yeah, no hydraulic pressure.
Customer complains of no hydraulic pressure, which is not good because the combine runs almost entirely on hydraulics. Well, they shut it off. That's not a good sign. Nothing quite like reliability. The S780 is dead in the water, won't move. Dad took my truck to the dealership. The show must go on though. The nice part about having 2 combines, you can at least get something done. Unless this thing craps out on us. Since we only have 1 combine running and it takes quite a while for it to fill up cutting beans, we'll go tinker around with that one, see if we can flick something that'll make it work again. Yep. Engine running, hydrostatic charge pressure switch does not detect pressure. Okay. 2-range automatic, which is the Pro Drive. Well, if neither of those are detecting pressure, that is not good at all. I hope our hydraulic pump didn't go out. We're crawling around, checking everything, making sure everything's plugged in. Seems to be. Oh, this is not good. What a great day to spend your Saturday. Diagnosing a combine that shouldn't be broke down. Well, you might as well make a guess in the comments down below what you think's wrong. Bad sensor, wire disconnected, hydraulic pump completely grenaded inside there. I have no idea. I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to get a mechanic out here today. They're pretty busy. I just got off the phone with my dad. Here's our game plan right now for fixing that combine. They're going to try to replace 2 sensors. They don't have them in Mattoon, but they have them at their other store in Newton, which is probably about 35 or 40 minutes from the field we're at right now. Dad's gonna zip down there and pick those up. We like to keep a pickup truck at the field at all times in case there's some kind of terrible emergency. So he's gonna go get Jeff or Chris, take them back by home and bring a pickup up here. Katie and I are just gonna continue cutting, unless her hydraulics go out too. Our 2 new terraces that we installed last fall seem to be holding up well. Even with all the rainfall we've had this year, they have not topped. Topping means that the water level within the terrace bottom gets higher than the bank. It runs over the top and usually cuts a trench as it goes. What we were trying to eliminate by installing these was that very steep wash going through the field. It's still there somewhat, although we didn't make any attempts to fill it in. We're hoping that it naturally settles on its own, levels back out, although I think we really needed a 3rd terrace farther down. Time will tell on that one. This isn't going to come as a surprise to a lot of you, but the beans in the bottom of the terrace were not very good. It's almost as though they don't like living in the bottom of a swimming pool. Just take it easy on the turn and have your unloading auger out ready to go and you should be fine. That was a pretty full hopper of beans. It's a nice thing about the radios. I can easily communicate to the combine drivers and reassure them when they think they're too full to keep going. If they spill some though, it's not my fault. They are the operator. Even though I might be the spotter. I'm speculating that if the S780 hadn't broken down, we'd be done with this field by now. With both combines running, no hiccups at all, we were doing easily 30 acres an hour, which is a relatively impressive number for our operation. That bigger combine helps a lot in soybeans with the added horsepower. It's not worth much though when it's completely broke down. He should be back here by now. It's been about an hour or so since he left. I hope that's the fix. If it's not a sensor, it's probably something that's much more complicated. On the bright side though, the beans look decent, other than the fact that they're really small, which might actually cause the yield to be not as great. I'm not even gonna speculate what they're making, one, because I can only see the S780's yield monitor, and two, at this point, I don't even trust the yield monitor on the S780, and I hate to have to correct myself. There's one question I've been receiving quite a bit on our soybean videos, and that's why do we cut at an angle versus straight on? Well, first and foremost, cutting at an angle on 15-inch rows allows them to feed better and keeps your cutter bar wear even. You could definitely attempt to cut 15-inch row beans straight with the rows. However, it is going to be very challenging to perfectly keep your snout in between two rows and not occasionally run over the outside row. When you're cutting at an angle, you don't run over very many beans at all. The ones that lean over on the outside, you'll pick back up on the way through. To put it simply, it just seems to work better. When we did plant 30-inch row beans, we cut straight with the rows. I do know some operations though that plant 30-inch row soybeans and cut at an angle. At the end of the day, it's really just personal preference. Cutting at an angle on 15-inch row beans is what a lot of people around here do, and we just kind of follow suit. I love it when the sky's so clear that you can see the planes flying. Pretty neat. You gotta do what you gotta do. Blocking the road to dump the combine. What a slow day it's been. I'm not even gonna finish this field. Elevator closes in an hour. I could probably fit 550 bushels on Chris there on the 10-wheeler. Jeff's loaded. We don't like to leave beans on the trucks because they do pick up moisture overnight. So he's probably gonna go home after he dumps and we'll fill the last truck and quit. No sign of Dad yet. Change of plans. These beans are testing about 11.5% moisture right now. They usually only pick up 1.5% to 2% overnight if you leave them on the truck. 13.5% is acceptable for us, so we will probably go ahead and load Jeff back full, tarp him for the day, and send him home. Chris will go to the elevator. He won't load up anymore because we can't tarp him, and we quite possibly might load the grain cart depending on how the moisture goes into the night. Usually once the sun sets, which we're maybe 60 minutes away from, moisture starts to pick up. That water comes out of the ground, moistens those beans a little bit, they creep up, and we don't want them to cut too wet. Now that's a view right there. The John Deere Combine Eclipse. Look at that view. That's harvest season right there in one image. Is it gonna be an easy job or a hard job?
I don't know.
It's gonna be a find out as we go job.
Yeah, that island isn't gonna work.
Wait, too small?
Yeah.
I'll grab you the set.
Bring the side cutters in the back too. Hold those.
So you don't lose them?
Yeah.
Hopefully this was the bad part. This one, we'll know pretty quickly. I think I see it, maybe.
Where?
Right where your left hand is up one to the right, about 2 inches, right there. Is that it?
No.
Struggling to find the sensor that we're trying to replace. It's on the hydraulic pump somewhere. But there's a lot of sensors on the hydraulic pump.
I don't see one for it.
Could it be farther down the line? Or did he say it was on the pump?
He said it was on the back of the pump.
There's a couple sensors facing out towards like the panel side, but none of them look like they'd fit right.
No, so I know for sure it's on the outside facing the styling panel.
Okay, well,
facing the styling panel.
that's where I'm looking. There's 3 sensors here, but it doesn't look like it would fit any of these pigtails. We didn't locate that sensor, but we're just gonna try it anyways. Maybe it was the front one. Nope. I see the combine is still flashing stop in the cab, so quite possibly that one. I can hear the sound of Katie unloading the combine off in the distance. We've probably taken a good chunk out of this bean field while Dad and I kind of mess around here trying to figure this out. We still haven't figured out that sensor. At the very least, though, we can enjoy the ambiance of a nice harvest sunset. Unless we just have no idea what we're doing. We don't think we have the right sensor, but the diagram shows that we have the right sensor.
Or we're at the wrong place.
Or we're at the wrong place.
We can't find any place where it goes.
Oh, well, we officially have lost this battle for the night. Sun is set. We don't have any answers. The part does not appear to fit right, or we have no idea what's going on. Looks like the doties are still picking corn. It's too wet to cut beans. Moisture picked up. We got over 12%, and once the sun sets, those beans do not like to cut. We're shutting her down. Very disappointing day. That makes 3 in a row. There's always a silver lining to be found. We only lack a little bit of this field. We should have had it done probably 4 hours ago, but hiccups happen. We just have to deal with them. I think we're probably just personally on the wrong page with the repair on the machine. We need to figure out where that part goes. Regardless, though, I think that's more than enough for... Wow, that was a bean harvest sneeze. I think that's more than enough farming for one video. If not for you, definitely for me and my allergies. Everyone, I really appreciate you tuning in. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment down below if you have any questions. You know I love to talk about farming. Have a great night, everyone. Peace!